Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Daily Herold here on Badlands Media. I'm your host, Jon Herold. Hope you guys are having a great Monday, great start of your week so far. Very excited about today's show. We're going to be catching up on all the news, but we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. And I have a special guest joining me to do just that. So before we bring him on, let's get a word from our first sponsor of today's show, a new sponsor, Assisted Leaving. Here at Assisted Leaving, we are doing our part to make America great again. When a woke celebrity promises to leave if Donald J. Trump becomes the 47th president, how many times have you said to yourself, I would help pay for them to leave? Well, now for just $9.95, you can. Get your certificate and join the movement to hold these individuals accountable. Show your support for a greater America by helping those who promise to leave. Assisted Leaving will pay up to $6,000 for a first-class one-way ticket for celebrities on our 2025 departure list. They don't go, that money goes towards sending young conservatives to conferences like GART. Make America even greater and visit badlandsmedia.tv/leave and get your certificate today for just under $10. Assisted Leaving, making promises count. That's badlandsmedia.tv/leave. All right, let's get right to it. The one and only Chris Paul. How's it going, man?
Good, man. Another day in paradise. How you doing?
Another day in paradise. Yeah. So did you watch Super Bowl last night?
I did not.
Okay. Well, that's good. It's probably smart. I didn't watch much of it. I watched maybe like 30 minutes total, and it was, 5 to 10 minutes before and 5 to 10 minutes after the halftime show, but that's mainly what I wanted to watch. I got the gist of it from social media, but I'm curious what you're thinking, because just the little I saw, it was very much like we're all on the same side again. It's America first, patriotism. You had the red, white, and blue dancers. You had Samuel L. Jackson wearing like his Uncle Sam costume, and I think they even called him Uncle Sam. Mm-hmm. And for those who missed it, here's even a little American flag from the dance crew, and this is Samuel L. Jackson, his getup. So yeah, what are you thinking? What are you seeing?
Well, I saw the Brad Pitt commercial there too. It's strange to me because, the cultural momentum was all headed in one direction well before the fake election of 2024. And, we talked for the better part of a year leading up to November 2024 about how there was no way that anyone would ever believe that Donald Trump could lose a real and legitimate election to first Joe Biden and then Kamala. And so understanding that point and then putting that aside, you have to look at it from the regime's perspective. What's the best case scenario? And the best case scenario is you allow the bad thing that you cannot avoid to happen. That thing's got to happen. And then you do the best to fortify the rest of the system around that, understanding that that thing is already lost. So Donald Trump gets his win. You solidify uniparty throughout the rest of the government, and then you do everything you can to thwart the Donald Trump agenda and ride it out for 4 years, outlasting Trump, outlasting MAGA while everyone goes back to sleep and the system of control remains in place. And so you would expect that in order to accomplish that, you have to make all the people who were active and angry about being totally disenfranchised by their government and removed from power, you'd want to make them feel very comfortable, like they're getting everything they could ever ask for, let them go back to sleep, and then you just keep marching forward. And so the Super Bowl is one of the biggest ops of the year, every single year, a regime op given to us by the people who control media and entertainment, transnational corporations that are being advertised, pharma companies, etc., military industrial complex, longtime supporter of the NFL. All these organizations get together. They want to get everybody back on the same page, centered around one message. And so going in, that's what they're trying to do. And so I watched the whole event from that point of view.
So what would be getting everybody on the same page in this scenario? Because we've seen for like 8 years, maybe longer even, this woke agenda seeping into the propaganda that is put forth by the Super Bowl. And one of the big takeaways I'm seeing from a lot of people is like, oh man, it's so nice to see the woke agenda not in your face at the Super Bowl. So what do you think the unifying message here and getting everybody on the same page is from what we saw?
Well, they're clearly shifting to a more pro-American style branding. Okay. And that's going to appeal to a lot of people on our side. But the point is to understand that this is branding. This is a marketing pitch to Americans supporting Donald Trump. Hey, we know that we, prevented you from doing your jobs. We destroyed your businesses. Many of you lost your homes. You lost friends and relatives to the vaccine mandates or to alcohol or drug abuse or whatever it might be throughout the very deadly pandemic period. We've wasted all your money on these foreign wars. We've allowed your country to be invaded. But here's some red, white, and blue. And if you just get happy about that, we can all agree to be back on the same page and watch football again, because football is the most patriotic thing in the world. We had Brad Pitt out there telling us that. And so we've had all these people who are chiefly responsible for the degradation of our culture over the last decade. And we're all like, gosh, you know what? It is so much better when we're all united. You guys are the coolest. And as long as you're on our side, I guess we can forgive you. And so that's what it seemed like was being pitched by all the institutions of power in our culture yesterday. And it seems like a lot of people took it hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. So can you talk about the importance of understanding, like recognizing the psyop that we're witnessing and the ramifications of falling victim to that versus not falling victim to that?
Well, sure. I mean, and people have to understand that, like, there's multiple ways you can view all these things. And I understand that through a certain lens, you can view all this stuff as full control, and it's all very helpful. But at the end of the day, you're still admitting that it's a psyop. And the psyop is meant to corral people into a certain belief system. Even if that is being pushed by our side to move the people who are furthest left back toward the center, that doesn't mean that we have to meet them there in the center. If we're way out ahead, we're trying to do something much bigger than that. And I think we are. If we're trying to get the country back, then we need to stay outside of that pen. We need to understand what the psyop is attempting to do and then refuse to be hoodwinked and remain thinking independently for ourselves. And I think that that's what gets lost in a lot of the analysis of this, because as we're busy applauding, all the normies are seeing that America is back. Okay, maybe that's good, unless we're making ourselves normies in the process.
That's a good point. And maybe one more thing for you to touch on is more the downside of going and meeting them in the middle, because I think, like what you said at the beginning, having to do with the elections, and okay, now our elections are fine again, all because Trump won, our side won, so we don't have to worry about elections anymore. Mm-hmm. Kind of the same thing with this. Oh, we don't have to worry about culture anymore because the culture has come to meet us in the middle, and we're going to meet them there, and everything's fine again. If we fall for that, what's the long-term ramifications of that after like the next 4 years?
Yeah. And I mean, the other thing is, despite how well things are going, Donald Trump is doing an amazing job. And he clearly has an overwhelming mandate from the American people. And by the way, I'm as positive as I ever was about the future of this. We are literally on the dawn of an American renaissance if the thing goes the right way. And the problem is that we have not experienced our last betrayals. And there is still this layer that is attached to the whole MAGA train as it drives forward. And that layer is trying to divert things and redirect them. And we have to be conscious of that, because there's still a lot of power that can be easily shifted because we want things to simply be good. There are a lot of people still trying to drive that thing in the wrong direction. We had a week last week where everyone was justifiably upset about our own government propagandizing us and propagandizing other countries through USAID and the rest of it. And so we're very, very upset about USAID propaganda. But I made that meme last night because, we still have transnational corporations, the NFL, the military industrial complex, the weird part of our pop culture. All of this is corporate globo homo propaganda that we're all like, yeah, give me all that with the NFL. All this propaganda is good because this says that we're pro-America. And, that's the kind of propaganda everybody needs. Our pop culture, our society, like on that level, has not changed yet. Sorry, I was getting distracted reading my own meme.
Yeah, it's a great meme, by the way. Like, I don't think you guys understand. It's a brilliant meme. But that's exactly what happened. It's we spend a week calling out, you said propaganda, and then everybody's like all in on what we saw at the Super Bowl. Maybe not everybody. I think there's a there's a good mix of reactions and responses, and I don't think one interpretation is more correct than the other, but it's just understanding the psyop aspect of this. Yeah. And I feel like every time one of these things happens, we spend like a week debating what it was, and then we all kind of take some time to correct ourselves and get on the same page over, oh yeah, it was a psyop and it was pretty stupid. But Chris, thank you for joining. I know you'll probably be discussing this more in depth on your show today.
Indeed.
Where can people find you?
It's right there on the screen. Go to Rumble or YouTube. I stream at 3 p.m. Eastern today at I'm Your Moderator. You can find me in both places.
Awesome. Thanks again for joining. And
thanks for having me.
I'll see you later, man. Oh, do you want to talk about hindsight real quick?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, yes. We are putting a stop to hindsight 2020 and then 2017, at least for the time being. It's just a major workload that was giving me no time to do anything else, including writing and a number of the other things I'm trying to work on. So we're hitting pause on that. So there's not going to be a show this evening, and we'll have something new for you in the future. Awesome.
Thanks again, Chris. We'll catch you later.
Bye. All
right, guys. Yeah. So Super Bowl, didn't watch it. Don't fall for the propaganda. Yeah. And I think the biggest takeaway for me too is like, you can interpret stuff. I try my best not to get emotional over any form of interpretation. Like, I'm not married to anything. I'm open to anything. I just try to see the psyop for what it is. Right. And when you're analyzing something, if every time you analyze something, you get the result that you want, you are feeding your confirmation bias. You know what I mean? And that's what I think we need to do a better job of avoiding is stop just analyzing stuff in a way that you get the result that feeds what you went into it hoping for. Because that's not actual analysis. You're literally just feeding your confirmation bias. And so anyway, these debates are fun. I'm not, just because I disagree with somebody doesn't mean I don't like them. You know, I don't agree with the full control narrative, and that's fine. I still find value in the Q drops and what the people who analyze that stuff do. And it's not a knock against the Q drops either. It's just I have a different opinion and a different take on things. And I think that's the beauty of Badlands too, is that we have such a wide variety of perspectives on any given topic, and we have such a wide variety of, you know, analysis on it. That's a good thing to have. We shouldn't always agree. That's where you fall into traps. So anyway, I'm going to move on from that. A couple updates from Ash that she sent over regarding confirmation hearings this week. They're voting for lawfare today. I think that's Small Business Administration. And then at 5:30, they're invoking cloture on Tulsi. Tomorrow, there's a vote on Jamison Greer for trade in the Finance Committee. Wednesday, there's a hearing for Lori Chavez de Remer in Labor in the Help Committee. There's a hearing on pending nominations in Judiciary on Wednesday. And then Thursday is the vote on Kash Patel. And then Linda McMahon for Education on Wednesday as well. And then also one thing to keep an eye on, there's this, let me see. Right here. Anna Paulina Luna has announced a press conference. I think she announced it last week. Last week, she said, I have an announcement next week that will impact the entire nation. Press conference date will be announced soon. And then she retweeted it again yesterday. So my press conference is confirmed for Tuesday at 3 p.m. It will be joined by Chairman James Comer of the Oversight. That's an interesting person to have with her for the press conference. But I'm assuming we'll be covering that on Badlands along with everything else we'll be covering. So make sure you guys stay tuned and make sure you're following so that you don't miss any of our coverage. But yeah, we'll let's run through a few things from yesterday. This was weird. I'm not even 100% sure this is confirmed, but I've seen a lot of people talking about it. So I got to imagine it is. But allegedly Kanye West had an interesting Super Bowl commercial, like spent millions of dollars on a Super Bowl ad promoting his website. And then he scrubbed everything from his site except for one product, which is a shirt with a swastika label on it or logo on it. Let me play this commercial here.
What's up, guys? I spent like all the money for the commercial on these new teeth. So once again, I had to shoot it on the iPhone. Go to easy.com.
That was the commercial. That was it. And if you guys watched the game, if you could verify, that would be greatly appreciated. That was true. I'm seeing news that his account doesn't even exist anymore. I don't know if he deleted it. I don't know if it was Elon Musk deleting it. Like, he had all the weird tirades of posts the last like couple days, and then yesterday he was allegedly posting just a bunch of porn, just straight up porn to his Twitter. So it would make sense if you're Elon Musk and the team at X that you're going to probably ban accounts that have porn on them. So I don't know what happened here, but anyway, I thought that was funny. And the commercial and the product. Again, here's the product. The only thing for sale on the website he spent millions of dollars advertising during the Super Bowl commercial. Trump was at the game yesterday. We're going to go through a couple of clips from his interview he did with Brett Baier before. The full interview is going to be airing today at some point, I think this evening. But before we even do that, I got to play this. Trump posted on Truth Social, the only one that had a tougher night than the Kansas City Chiefs was Taylor Swift. She got booed out of the stadium. MAGA is very unforgiving. And this is a hilarious clip because they show her on the Jumbotron. People started booing, and she like looks and is like, what's going on? Are they booing me? She doesn't even like comprehend that the people don't like her there. And when Trump got on the Jumbotron, standing ovation, people cheering, went nuts. But check this out. You can even see her mouth here, like right here. She says, I don't know what is going on. Just great. Love seeing it. Love seeing them realize, these celebrities, that, you know, maybe I shouldn't have been pushing that woke agenda for so long. Maybe I shouldn't have started dating the guy who promoted Pfizer for 3 years. Actually, I mean, I really don't care about Taylor Swift or her relationship with what's his name. But anyway, Trump had a couple funny posts. The worst part of the Super Bowl by far was watching the kickoff, where as the ball is sailing through the air, the entire field is frozen, stiff. College football does not do it and won't. Whose idea was it to ruin the game? Gotta love it. And then I'm going to play a couple clips from Trump's interview that aired before the game.
Some of your plays have raised some questions and had some pushbacks. 19 states' attorneys general filed a lawsuit, and early Saturday, a judge agreed with them to restrict Elon Musk and his government efficiency team, Doge, from accessing Treasury Department payment and data systems. They said there was a risk of irreparable harm. What do you make of that? And does that slow you down on what you want to do?
No, I disagree with it 100%. I think it's crazy. And we have to solve the efficiency problem. We have to solve the fraud, waste, abuse, all the things that have gone into the government. You take a look at the USAID, the kind of fraud in there.
And you found significant things.
Well, we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars of money that's going to places where it shouldn't be going, where if I read a list, you'd say, this is ridiculous. And you've read the same lists, and there are many that you haven't even seen. It's crazy. It's a big scam. Now, there's some good money, and we can do that through any one of a number. I think I'd rather give it to Marco Rubio over at the State Department. Let him take care of the few good ones. So I don't know if it's kickbacks or what's going on, but the people, look, I ran on this, and the people want me to find it. And I've had a great help with Elon Musk, who's been terrific.
Bottom line, you say you trust him.
Trust Elon? Oh, he's not gaining anything. In fact, I wonder how he can devote the time to it. He's so into it. But I told him do that. Then I'm going to tell him very soon, like maybe in 24 hours, to go check the Department of Education. He's going to find the same thing. Then I'm going to go to the military. Let's check the military. We're going to find billions, hundreds of billions of dollars of fraud and abuse. But I campaigned on this, Brett.
You announced tariffs on Canada.
All right. So the thing they're talking about here is the judge blocking, and this came out Saturday. And now we're going to talk a little bit later about another lawsuit. We're up to 3 now, 3 judges that have ruled against Trump and what he's doing. The one from Saturday we talked about on the Saturday Power Hour but it's just more of the same. There was a judge who came out and he said, what Trump is doing here, I'm putting a temporary restraining order on it. And then he passed it off to another judge. It was the weirdest, craziest thing. But it is funny. Like, a lot of the things that they're arguing about is Elon Musk having access to the social security numbers and personal information of citizens. Like, what makes him less trustworthy than anybody else that's had access to that over the years? Like, is Elon Musk going to steal people's identity and steal money from them? He's one of the richest guys in the world. He might be the richest person in the world. Is he going to really start opening up bank accounts in everybody's names? No. It's just ridiculous. The whole thing is ridiculous. But again, they're fighting Trump on everything that they can, because this is Trump dismantling their bureaucracy. He's dismantling what they have used for years to enrich themselves, and they got caught. And so they're a cornered animal. They're going to fight back in any way possible. Right now, they're using the judicial system, and in a little bit, we'll talk about some other methods they're going to use to fight back. But we'll see where this goes. I'm very curious. I know Trump has so far made filings in these lawsuits to kind of push back and demand, change the ruling. You can't do this, whatever. I don't know if it's going to get appealed to the Supreme Court. I'm curious to see how he handles it. Is he just going to disregard it? Doesn't appear so, but I don't know. I do think Trump's in the right, though. Let's go to the next clip here.
You announced tariffs on Canada and Mexico. You immediately got action from both of them on border security and drug interdiction.
I did. A lot of
Is
action
that good enough? Is that good enough?
No, it's not good enough.
So more needed in 30 days.
Something has to happen. It's not sustainable, and I'm changing it.
The Prime Minister said this weekend to a group of Canadian businessmen, he was at a private meeting, he said that your wish for Canada to be the 51st state is a, quote, real thing. Is it a real thing?
Yeah, it is. I think Canada would be much better off being a 51st state, because we lose $200 billion a year with Canada, and I'm not going to let that happen. It's too much. Why are we paying $200 billion a year, essentially in subsidy, to Canada? Now, if they're a 51st state, I don't mind doing it.
You said the tariff is a beautiful word. There are some signs in the markets, consumer confidence.
I'm going to stop there for a second, because I just don't think it's really funny that he's pushing this Canada thing. I mean, only he's asked about it, and so he stays with the line that he's been pushing the entire time. He doesn't bring it up himself as much as he used to. The Greenland thing's another good example. He doesn't really promote that, even though I think it was over on Friday we talked about NATO potentially moving troops to Greenland to prevent Trump from taking it over. I'll say it again, and I'll say it. This is what I've been saying the whole time. I don't think Trump actually wants Canada to become the 51st state. I think it's a push to get them to essentially demand their own sovereignty. That this is Trump's sovereignty presidency. He wants sovereignty for everybody. And when he talks about taking over Greenland, hey, Greenland, get your own sovereignty from Denmark. Hey, Canada, get your own sovereignty here. And you're probably gonna have to suffer a little bit to get it. I'd be surprised if they actually become the 51st state, but who knows? And then we got this. Well, actually, I'm going to let this play a little bit longer, because the tariffs thing is interesting too. Canada's and Mexico's tariffs are paused, but there's new tariffs going out today. We'll talk about in a little bit, maybe even next.
And then that they're a little jittery. So if all goes to plan, when do you think families would be able to feel prices going down, groceries, energy, or are you kind of saying to them, hang on, inflation may get worse until it gets better?
No, I think we're going to become a rich. Look, we're not that rich right now. We owe $36 trillion. That's because we let all these nations take advantage of us. Same thing, like $200 billion with Canada. We owe 300. We have a deficit with Mexico of $350 billion. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let that happen.
Sports is.
All right. These are the tariffs that he's putting in today, allegedly. He's announcing. He said he would announce a 25% tariff today on steel and aluminum imports. Trump also said he planned to announce massive new reciprocal tariffs this week, which could match other countries' tariffs on U.S. goods dollar for dollar. These moves come as the president is expected to sign another round of executive orders this afternoon. I haven't seen a whole lot of rumors on what those executive orders are going to be. There's some rumors about the Department of Education. Really, the only executive action we got over the weekend was this one. While he was on the plane, it was yesterday, they showed video of this, of Trump signing the Gulf of America recognition of Gulf of America Day. And there's this whole thing. So now, therefore, I, Donald Trump, President of the United States of America, by virtue of the authority vested in me by the Constitution, hereby proclaim February 9th as Gulf of America Day. There you go. So, yeah, nothing much else from the website. Yeah, we covered the rest of it last week. So we'll be going over those every single day as we go forward. So just stay tuned. There's this fake news that came out. At least I think it's fake news. I'm pumping my brakes on it. Everybody's freaking out about Governor Shapiro of Pennsylvania being implicated in the attempted assassination attempt of Trump. There's a community note on this, so I'll read that first. But maybe let me read. A whistleblower from former PA State Police employee has come forward with information and filed a criminal complaint this week, allegedly linking Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro with the assassination attempt in Butler. Allegations from the private criminal complaint: in the weeks leading up to the Trump rally, President Joseph R. Biden made frequent visits to defendant Josh Shapiro to discuss the obstacle faced by the Democratic Party. I'm just encouraging you guys not to fully believe this. If it comes out that it is true, then sure. But there's a lot of fake news flying around. And right here, this is the community note. Pennsylvania allows a private citizen to commence a criminal charge by swearing PC to an attorney for the Commonwealth. While not a charge by the DA, it is in a charge as a commencement, and the state now decides if they agree to or not, if they agree to follow through with it. So just because somebody came forward, it's like anybody can come forth and make some sort of criminal complaint, and then the state decides whether or not, there's merit to that, we'll follow through. So pump the brakes. Let's see what happens. This came out yesterday. For far too long, from Trump on True Social, for far too long, the United States has minted pennies, which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I've instructed my Secretary of the U.S. Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time. Love this idea. Surprised he did it. Nobody's ever really talked about getting rid of the minting of pennies. How many people actually use pennies anymore? Everybody uses their cards anyway. How many people are going to the store and paying an exact change? But whatever. I wonder how many pennies we mint a year. Either way, they're gone now. So if you do have pennies, I would hold on to them because they're probably going to be worth something in a couple hundred years. We got this. This is from last week, February 8th, so Friday. Trump amended his CBS 60 Minutes lawsuit and now demands $20 billion. If you remember Friday, we talked about the CBS. They actually published the full interview. President Trump has amended his lawsuit against CBS, demanding $20 billion, and again claiming the network deceptively edited a 60 Minutes interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris in an effort to prop up her election chances. In the new court filing late Friday, Trump demanded twice the amount in damages than he originally requested. The updated complaint includes CBS parent company Paramount Global as a defendant and added Republican U.S. Rep. Ronnie Jackson, Trump's former doctor, as an additional plaintiff because he lives in Texas where the case was filed. And this comes on the heels, too, of FCC, the director of it, Brendan Carr, kind of putting some pressure on CBS about this. So I'm more curious about the fallout with the FCC than I am about this actual lawsuit, because I expect this to be settled. CBS is probably just going to settle it and pay some amount of money to Trump, kind of like Facebook did. I think there was another news agency that did. But if the FCC is on them for what they did here and fully pursues this, this could be bigger than a fine. What if they lose their broadcast license or something crazy? I don't know if that'll actually happen, but that's what should happen. So we'll stay tuned on this and see what happens. Another post from Trump. Our service academies have been infiltrated by woke leftist ideologues over the last 4 years. I've ordered the immediate dismissal of the Board of Visitors for the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Coast Guard. We will have the strongest military in history, and that begins by appointing new individuals to these boards. We must make the military academies great again. It's just part of dismantling that woke ideology that's been just unmercifully pushed everywhere. So I love this move. I'm surprised he didn't make himself as chairman of the boards like he did with the Kennedy Center. And again, we talked about the Kennedy Center stuff on Saturday's Power Hour. So if you missed that episode, I would encourage you to go watch it. The next thing I want to talk about, I won't spend a ton of time on this, but over the last week or so with the USAID funding, there's been a lot of people using this tool from Data Republican and digging into who's been getting money from where. And I think that a lot of people are jumping to a lot of conclusions. And the reason I haven't done that, and I've almost pushed back privately against some people who are pushing this, is because I used to work for a Catholic school system. I used to fundraise for a living. And so I'm going to use Flynn's company or Flynn's Foundation, America's Future Inc., as an example, because that's one that's being promoted pretty heavily. And so if you go to the website, the Data Republican website thing, let me put this up. You can look up the company, and way over here on the right is America's Future Inc. Okay. So in 2022, they got, it looks like $2 million or something. And that shows you where they got it from. So Bradley Impact Fund, and that money goes back to Santa Fe Community Foundation. It goes back and back. They got $8,550 from Fidelity Investments, and that goes back to Rockefeller. And this is where everybody's kind of freaking out. They're saying they're going all the way over here to the left because this Consortium for Elections, it's CEPPS is I don't even know the full name of this group, but they had a ton of money. They give it away, and then they like follow the money. Okay, taxpayer dollars. Whoops. Taxpayer dollars, taxpayer dollars, taxpayer dollars, taxpayer dollars. And then they trace it all the way over to Flynn and Flynn's group. But it's just the distance between these groups, it's not compelling, guys. Like this Fidelity Investments, they have $26 million. Or is that trillion even, or billion? I mean, yeah, they got billions of dollars. Okay, billions with a B, and they give $8,500 to Flynn's group, and we're gonna be like, oh yeah, they're totally bought off by CPPS. And this is the thing, like if you take a group, let's say Fidelity Investments, okay, and we're gonna use a nice round even number, $1 million. Okay, they get $100,000 from CEPPS, and then $100,000 from a private donor. So now they're up to $1.2 million. They go and give $100,000 to a group like Flynn's or TPUSA. That was another one that got floated around. So of the $200,000 they received and the $1 million they already had, they give away $100,000 to a different organization, Charlie Kirk. Now, how are we going to determine that $100,000 they gave to Charlie Kirk or Flynn or whatever is from the $100,000 they got from CEPPS? How do we know it's not from the private donor? How do we know it's not from the original money they have? These organizations have grants that you can apply for, and they will send you money. I used to do this. I don't think there's anything nefarious. And guys, I am not a fan of Charlie Kirk, as you guys know. And mainly it's because he doesn't talk about election fraud, but there's no there. There's no connection. And you can't draw that line from they received a very, very minuscule amount of money, which you could potentially say came from a group that received money from taxpayers. You said money. And so therefore they're just like Politico and they're pushing propaganda or I need to see there. I need to see, okay, this money from SEPs was given to this organization so that it could be given to this organization. So it could be given to the next organization and then eventually given in a much smaller amount to Charlie Kirk so that he wouldn't talk about elections on YouTube. Like I need to see the proof there. Otherwise it's not there. My biggest concern with the people getting this money, like the people defending Flynn that are part of Flynn's organization, like a Tracy Beans, like I don't care that she got money from Flynn's organization if she did the work. Just don't be dishonest about it. Like she's out there claiming she only worked there a year. Maybe that's true. She's saying she only got $60,000. That's not true according to tax filings. She got $50,000 in 2021 and $60,000 in 2022. Here's the $50,000. $50,000. Tracy Diaz. This is 2021. 2022. Tracy Diaz, $60,000. If she worked there for a year, she got paid $110,000. She got paid in 2 separate years. Just be honest about it. Own up to it. And don't pretend to be like poor and play victim. Like that's my issue, is you're misrepresenting the money you got and how you got it. Or the amount you got. Just own up to it. Be honest with your followers. anyway, I'm going to move past that. Keith Kellogg is going to Ukraine this week. U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia will visit Ukraine next week. Ukrainian government source says Keith Kellogg, the United States Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, will visit Ukraine next week. Ukrainian government source told CNN on Monday. Kellogg is expected to visit Ukraine next Thursday, February 20th. Oh, so that's not this week. It's next week. Interesting name to follow. This guy was with Trump for the majority of Trump's first term. Actually, I think the entirety. I think he was there during his 2016 campaign, was there throughout. He was a special advisor to Christopher Miller. He was questioned by the J6 committee and had some interesting comments, which we covered on a Power Hour not long ago. Just this guy's in the know. And now he's the special envoy for Ukraine, Russia. And I'm curious to see if he's going to get this war resolved. So, some people are questioning Kellogg, and I think even Douglas McGregor, is that his name? I think he's been questioning and calling Kellogg a war hawk. I don't see that from him. I haven't seen any comments that make me believe that's the case. But again, there's movement here. Trump has kind of presented step one of his plan to resolve the Gaza situation, and now he's addressing the Ukraine war situation. Or at least we're going to see how he's going to address it in the coming weeks. So something to stay up on. And let me see if there's anything else from CNN I wanted to cover. I thought there was one more. Oh yeah, there is one more. Let me find it here. Oh yeah, here it is. The third lawsuit that I was telling you about. A third judge blocks Trump's order ending birthright citizenship. So the one thing we had was the firing of employees, I believe from USAID. The other lawsuit was blocking access to the Treasury for the Doge team, and even Scott Bessent, crazy, the Secretary of the Treasury, being blocked from accessing Treasury data. Just insane. The third one here is blocking Trump's executive order, which ended birthright citizenship for the children of people who are in the U.S. illegally. The ruling from U.S. District Judge Joseph LaPlante in New Hampshire comes after two similar rulings by judges in Seattle and Maryland. LaPlante, who was nominated by Republican President George Bush, said he wasn't persuaded by the Trump administration's defense of the executive order. He said he would issue a longer preliminary injunction, later explaining his reasoning. It's crazy. Any random judge anywhere in the country can essentially come forward and say, you know what, I'm going to put a pause on this because I don't like your reasoning. But the people behind all this lawfare against Trump are names that we're all familiar with. It's Mark Elias and some of his groups, and they're using nonprofits to do it too. They use these nonprofits. Most of them have democracy in the name, and then they file, like, on behalf of them, a lawsuit blocking this stuff. And here's Norm Eisen on MSNBC. I think this was today, even this morning. And we won't listen to this whole clip, but just listen to his background at the beginning, and then we'll listen to some of his commentary.
As the House. Ken Delanian and Lisa Rubin, guys, thank you both very much. And joining us now is Norm Eisen, State Democracy Fund Chair, former special counsel and special assistant to President Obama. He was also an advisor to the impeachment managers during Trump's first impeachment.
He also, which they aren't going to say here, but he was also basically the leading advisor on most of the lawfare against Trump these last 4 years. Like Jack Smith's filings, a lot of them were written as like, this is what I think Jack Smith should do. And they'd write this huge blog and legal analysis, whatever. And then you'd see that show up in Jack Smith's filings.
Norm, it's good to have you with us. What's your reaction to what we're hearing from the president and the vice president about how they see their executive powers?
And I don't think the courts or the American people are going to let the vice president, the president, Mr. Musk, who's an administration official, who's also suggested that the courts may not need to be followed or judges may need to be unlawfully removed. He said that in one of his tweets earlier today. I don't think they're going to get away with that. What you're seeing is a shock and awe assault on the foundations of our democracy with all of these unconstitutional and illegal actions, and a responding shock and awe by my group and our allies and many others going to court and securing these orders, stopping them. I won orders last week, the very first case locking Mr. Musk out of the Treasury Department. He has no right to look at that data.
So again, this is so crazy, so stupid that they're trying to challenge this. And I do think it's almost a good thing in a way, because the sooner we get these challenges to Trump and his authority and his power as president to the Supreme Court and have them make some rulings on this, the sooner we can put this stuff to rest and these people can just whine and moan on MSNBC, but they can't actually do anything about it. So this was expected. We expected them to fight back, and clearly they're going to use lawfare to do it. They have judges in their pocket. That's not surprising. And it's just a matter, okay, let's do it. Let's fight this out in court. Let's rip the Band-Aid off and be done with it. And then moving forward, they have no authority to, or they have no excuse or even reason to attempt trying to block this moving forward. And so let's let the process play out and see how Trump responds. But this is taking us to our next legal battle. And I wouldn't even say it's a legal battle. It's going to be a narrative battle. And there's going to be some actuals here too, because the next step, and something, if you've been watching the show, you're fully caught up on where this is going and where I think this is going. You know where I think this is going. It's going to the shutdown fight. As I was talking about this almost all last week, and we're going to be talking about this for a long time moving forward, but now the mainstream media is catching up and talking about this as well. The Democrats plot the strategy in shutdown fight against Trump. Not a lot of good options. No, they don't have a lot of good options. Democrats have been powerless as they've watched President Donald Trump systematically move to dismantle federal agencies and push the bounds of his office with little concern about the fallout. But they do have one looming piece of leverage: the March 14 deadline to avert a government shutdown. House and Senate Democrats at the highest levels are now engaged in a fierce debate about what exactly to demand in their first big negotiation with Trump and how forcefully to push, according to conversations with more than 24 members and senior aides. Trump and GOP leaders will need Democratic support in the Senate, where 60 votes would be required to advance the bill. The House, they just need a simple majority. And so how that works is, House, simple majority, you get the bill, you agree to it. We have enough numbers there to get that through, whatever spending bill they come up with. Okay. The Senate, they need 60 votes to end cloture, like 3/5. And if they don't end that, once they end that, then they can just vote on it regularly with a simple majority. But if they don't get those 60 votes, they can't pass a spending bill. And so it's up to the Democrats, essentially, because we have a 53-47 majority in the Senate. We need 7 Democrats to side with the Republicans in that vote to get any sort of spending bill passed. So it's kind of up to the Democrats to decide if they want to work with us, or us. I shouldn't say us, because I'm not associated with any of these people. If they want to work with conservatives, Republicans, whatever, uniparty, it's going to be a uniparty move. The uniparty is going to either work with Trump and fund whatever package he wants, because that's the next part of this, is after it passes the House and Senate, it's got to go to Trump, and Trump's got to sign it. He's not going to sign anything in there that he doesn't want. He has no reason to do that. I think the best case scenario is a government shutdown, especially for an efficiency. From an efficiency standpoint, shut down the darn government. Make these agencies justify what they need to fund and spend, and only fund that stuff. It'd be the quickest way for Doge to go through things. And that's also interesting why they're going so quickly through these agencies. They started with USAID, very corrupt, big exposure thing. And then Friday, we heard Trump saying that, we're going to send him to the DOD next. And then in that interview you saw yesterday, he's like, maybe within the next 24 hours, I'm going to have him go to the Department of Education as well. How many agencies can you just send Doge to examine before March 14th, the deadline? It's going to be interesting. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries and his Senate counterpart Chuck Schumer have been in talks about how best to use the funding deadline to counter Trump. But some top Democrats worry that even if they won policy concessions, Trump would only ignore the law, as they believe he has in some of his initial assaults on federal agencies. So a knockdown, drag-out battle, and potential shutdown could be all for naught. And as one senior aide described the situation, there's just not a lot of good options for Democrats. Many exasperated Democrats, even some from battleground House districts, insist a shutdown shouldn't be off the table if Republicans can't put up the votes themselves. it's just going to be so interesting to watch, because if I'm right about the shutdown being the end goal for Trump, the negotiations, none of it matters. I bet we're going to see something ridiculous in this spending bill put forth by, Mike Johnson and his package. It's probably going to be something ridiculous that the Democrats have no choice but to object to. They won't be able to come to an agreement with it, forcing the shutdown. That's what I expect to see. But we'll see. We have over a month yet before we get there. But this narrative is going to be building for the next month, and it's going to be fun to watch play out once we get there. There's even this over the weekend from Andy Kim. Democrat Andy Kim said he and his fellow Democrats are ready to shut down the federal government over President Trump's recent actions. I can't support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions, Kim said Sunday on NBC's Meet the Press. And for us to be able to support government funding in that way, only for them to turn it around to dismantle the government, that is not something that should be allowed. So not only they're trying to fight in the courts, they're going to fight it in Congress. Oh, let's see what else I got here. There's a couple stories I want to talk about, but I didn't have a chance to actually read them. So I'm not going to do that today. We'll do that tomorrow. Oh, here's that Senator Andy Kim.
Because your colleague Jeff Merkley basically said he's prepared to try to shut down the government over some of these sledgehammer actions that he's seeing by Elon Musk. Are you prepared to shut down the government, to join Democratic colleagues who want to stand in the way of keeping the government open?
Well, you have to look at what the Trump administration is doing right now. They are simply trying to dismantle the government. So yes, look, if we have to take steps to be able to hold them accountable, use the leverage that we have to force it, I cannot support efforts that will continue this lawlessness that we're seeing when it comes to this administration's actions. And for us to be able to support government funding in that way, only for them to turn it around to dismantle the government, that is not something that should be allowed.
So just to be clear, Senator, you are open to voting yes to shut down the government, to make this point.
This is on them. This is about whether or not they can get the votes. They are the majority. And if they cannot govern, then that's for the American people to see. But I've worked in government. I've worked through multiple government shutdowns. I would be the last person to want to get to that stage. But we are at a point where we are basically on the cusp of a constitutional crisis, seeing this administration taking steps that are so clearly illegal. And until we see a change in that behavior, we should not allow and condone that, nor should we assist in that.
It's just so funny. This is so funny because Trump has the mandate. Everybody is like overwhelmingly in support of what Trump is doing to make our government more efficient and get rid of the wasteful, corrupted government spending. And so the people that don't like it are going to try to hold the Trump administration and the American people hostage by saying, we're just going to shut down the government. And the reason that's so funny is because, again, I think that's what Trump wants. They're trying to hold Trump hostage with something that he ultimately wants. I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But anyway, I think that might be all I have, guys. There was this today. Elon Musk posted about the Doge team just discovered that FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal immigrants. Sending this money violated the law and is in gross insubordination to the president's executive order. That money is meant for American disaster relief and instead is being spent on high-end hotels for illegals. A clawback demand will be made today to recoup those funds. So another thing to keep tabs on as more of the corrupt spending and whatnot is exposed. We did have this. Russ Vaught over the weekend posted about, and this is from the Badlands Media website, but he posted about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau operations. They have been rendered inactive under the directives of its newly appointed acting director. Vaught assumed leadership of the CFPB on Friday. Shortly thereafter, he instructed all 2,000 agency employees to cease work and refrain from entering the office, as detailed in an internal email. And then he basically said that we don't need the funding for this agency anymore. So that was pretty hilarious. All right. Oh, there was this too from last thing, promise. Trump revoked security clearances for officials involved in election interference and political prosecutions. He revoked it for Andrew Weissman, one of the lead Russiagate prosecutors, Norm Eisen, who you just saw. I played that clip a little bit earlier. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and Deputy Attorney General Lisa Monaco, and Antony Blinken, and Alvin Bragg, and Letitia James. There we go. All right, everybody. That is it. And under an hour. So that's fun. Make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. Head over to Chromes. Check that out. They're live. And I know Alpha Makes Sandwiches is up here shortly after that. And get your GART tickets. We're going to be putting single day tickets on sale soonish. I'm not going to put an exact date or time on that, but it's on Miss Bright's radar, who's in the chat, I see. So yeah, there you go. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll be right back to read any rants that we might got. And we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Daily Herald.
0. Extra, read all about it. 2, 3. Let's get started.
That's what she said.
Oh, that's real good.
Why they stopping me?
All right, guys. Just a couple rants here. These up. Indie Boy, nice to see you, man. I watched Waiting for the Doge commercials. Don't remember seeing one. Psyops all around. And what I saw at halftime, Chris Paul hit the nail on the head. He sure did. And yeah, I don't know where that rumor even started about the Doge commercials. But I mean, I never thought he was actually going to do that. I don't even think I posted about it or engaged with that at all. You see all these random people just throwing anything out there. The misinformation is just ridiculous, and I think people need to do better about waiting the 48 to 72 hour rule. I even had my group of friends text me like, I didn't see a single Doge commercial. Like my normie friends who, you know, they aren't in the weeds like I am or like we are. And they even were aware and expecting some sort of Doge commercials. So that rumor certainly did spread far and wide. And then Team Smooth with a couple emojis clapping and a smiley face. Yeah, that's all we got for today, guys. So like I said, get your GART tickets, badlandsmedia.tv/events. And that's all I got. So we'll see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern. Oh, and tonight, Baseless Conspiracies, 10:30 Eastern. I'll be there as well. Have a great rest of your Monday.